Hi and welcome to the podcast. So today we're going to go slightly off piste. Usually I have written a piece and then I read it on the microphone, but it's pre-planned, pre-written. Today I've been inspired by hearing podcasts where it's like a morning show where you just sit down and you have a conversation. And I like the spontaneity of that, and I do it in my video blogs all the time, so I thought might as well just give you a little piece here, an improv. So today I wanted to talk about, I went to a conference the other day about values. It was called The Hierarchy of Values, and it was a discussion between a writer and a psychologist, both of which were very much into the objectivist philosophy. So everything was coming from that perspective, which I like. I find them very useful because everybody who talks from that perspective is very rational. They make a lot of sense and they speak with a lot of clarity. So needless to say, I'm not a specialist. I'm not even a very advanced student yet, but I figure a lot of people here aren't going to be either. And you might like it if I do something that isn't particularly difficult or dense to understand. So I'm going to give you what I got from this conference. It was very interesting because it was all about having integrity and responding to your own direction of where you want to go and how. In a sense, your values, the things that you value, the things that are important to you, and the things that you enjoy doing. That's how they described it, and I thought that was a very succinct, easy way to understand it. So the first thing they were talking about, I'm just going to go through my notes as we speak. Values are important for several reasons. One, for yourself, for your own progression in your life. Another, for knowing what kind of people you want to go with and to see whether they share your values, which they should. If they're your friends, then they should share your values. That would make a lot of sense. Otherwise, it's not going to be a very good friendship. And one of the concepts that they were talking about to figure out your values, because figuring out your values is one of the most difficult things for everybody, because we live in a certain culture, we live within a circle, within that culture, we live in a society where we're told what we have to want all the time, actually, and what we have to believe and what's good and what's bad. So we like to tell ourselves that we want to do certain things which are considered good in this society. And then we get confused because sometimes the things that we are told that are good to want are not really the things that we want. And the last thing that you want is to have a hierarchy of values that's wrong for yourself, that's muddled up, that's just not true to yourself. That's not your real values. So you have to make a real effort to discover your real values, what you really like doing, what you really want. Ask yourself, do I really want this? And I found when I was writing this list, I'm going to tell you a few pointers that I was doing, one of which was thinking about what I liked doing when I was a child. Another one of which, thinking about what you like doing the moment you wake up. So we will get to that, but let's just talk first about what the values are and how to kind of find them. So the psychologist, don't remember his name, but he was talking about something called the PERMA model, which are basically 5 words, 5 conditions to flourish. That's how they call happiness, because happiness is such an subjective concept that it's better to say to flourish. And now I'm going to give you, maybe get a booklet out if you're interested. If you want to write this down. But the first one was, And PERMA stands out for these words, basically. So it's positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments. That's PERMA. So what I'm taking from this is that within these categories is where you should slot in your values. So if we start by the first one, positive emotion is physiological. Feeling good, optimism, pleasure, and enjoyment. So you're going to think about things. These are going to be values that make you feel good. Don't even try to explain why or to reason. Just think of things. What makes you feel good? Instantly. What gives you an instant positive emotional response? And I will give you my examples. This could get pretty intrusive, but I mean, you guys know my values. Most of the people who either know me or listen to me. So if I think of things that make me feel good, I've written down very simple things. I've tried to keep it super, super simple because I was so confused. I was getting so confused with myself just trying to make this list. So positive, eating fresh, healthy food. That makes me feel good. I like doing that, that's instant emotion. Being in the sun. Just being in the sun, sitting in the sun, I find that very nurturing, very healing, very contemplative, makes me feel good. Exercising and connecting to myself, feeling like I'm healing my body. That makes me feel good. Not necessarily the process of having to do the exercise. Sometimes I'm not enjoying the exercise, but the feeling that I get, and especially the feeling that I get after, that is something that I need to do. It's one of my top values, just like being in the sun and eating fresh. So these are things that I don't want anybody to interfere with. That's what your values are about, and your friends and family should respect that, which they don't, and we will get to that later. But these are things that I need, absolutely prioritize, that I need. Privacy and space to connect with myself and read and study. That's another thing that gives me a straight, great emotional response. Luxury and sophistication. I mean, that's pretty vague, but you know what I mean, because you know the kind of things I'm into. So anything that's beautiful, it brings me instant happiness to see beautiful materials or a beautiful architecture, or the enjoyment of art, the pleasure that I get in being a witness to these things, that gives me, boom, emotional response. And obviously this is going to be a little bit tangled with other parts of this scheme, but love, romance, sex, I mean, yeah, all those things give me a very positive response. In fact, one of the most positive. I can't live without it. But this forms part of engagement and relationships, so I'm maybe not going to put it in here in the first one. But that does give you a positive response. So if you want, you can put it in your list. I like this list of positive emotions because you don't have to think about them too much. You can just agree. You can just see what things actually give you that response, and you don't have to battle with yourself about it. All right, so the second one. Second one is engagement. So this is like our second category, condition to flourish. And the descriptive word for this one is flow. So engagement basically means fulfilling work, interesting hobbies, flow. I take from this things that just make you swim in your life, that make the energy move. So here I'm thinking more about activities. And because it says fulfilling work, I'm thinking making your work into something fulfilling. Because one of the issues that I was having with this whole values list is they kept insisting on choosing values that you loved, or like things that you love doing. And my problem with that is there's a lot of things that I need to do to achieve my goals that I don't love doing. So it's important to have work which is at the same time fulfilling, because it kind of cancels each other out if you have chosen a field or things to do that do not in any way make you enjoy yourself. Because no matter what you get, at the end of your life, you're gonna die. It's not like you're working towards any objective or future. I see people thinking they're immortal all the time, like I'm saving up for, or if I do all of this, then what? There's no then, there's just now. Even if you're gonna live a really big life, you're never gonna have the same chances. You don't know how your health is gonna be. You don't do the same things. You don't feel like doing the same things when you're in your 20s than when you're in your 30s. I don't feel like doing the same things when I was 15 than now, So that time is gone forever. You can't really think of saving yourself or anything. So fulfilling work is a really important one. Interesting hobbies. So for me, some examples for your list. I love watching films with beautiful photography, humor, interesting conversations. All of those are elements that I need. Like if you asked me, can you live without this? I cannot. I need humor, I need comedy, and I need to watch films that are beautiful, that make me feel like I'm learning. That's a big one for me. Everything I do has to make me feel like I'm learning and making something. That's my position of my brain. That's what I like, and that's what I need. Not only what I like, I need it. And part of my engagement also is planning activities. I love to plan stuff to do. I'm an action person. So I love activities like excursions, exploring, traveling. Specifically when I'm traveling, I like to live like the people from there. I like having an experience that's very mundane. So be specific in your values, because for instance, if you're thinking about traveling with somebody and they don't share these kind of values, for me it would be having contemplative days. Love fire gazing, small luxuries, and I wrote that down. Sitting down, watching the horizon with a cappuccino. People watching. That's my life, that's what I like doing. That might seem really empty for a lot of people, but it allows me time to think. And I need that headspace. Okay, so that was a little bit vague. I'm not sure I did it correctly, but that's what I did. So it is all part of my values, I guess. I'm just gonna check if I have any others that I could put into the engagement category. I mean, since we have fulfilling work in here, I guess I could talk about my work here. So yeah, let's talk about work. So for me, I made a whole list because I was trying to figure out what the hell it is. I'm a freelance kind of person. I'm a creative sort of person. So that I will put in the achievements category later. But just what I like doing, I like entertaining. That's my thing. So for me, fulfilling work would be to entertain in every way possible. When I sing, I like to entertain. When I make something, it's because I want to show it. And that's a very big difference, because some people just want to do their stuff, just to do it. But I need the performing aspect, which is what I've figured out making these lists. I don't enjoy a life where I'm just doing stuff and getting money from it, but nobody gets to see it. That's what I found out because I was doing a lot of collaborations. I do a lot of collaborations. And for example, you write songs, and until those songs come out, or are published, they don't let you show them. So I've done so many things in my life, so much work, I've produced so much, and some of which I have even gotten paid for, but nobody has seen it. That doesn't give me any sense of accomplishment. It just doesn't. I'm an entertainer. I need to entertain. And that's a really important thing for a musician, and I guess I'm really lucky about that, because if you're a painter or you do other kinds of art, as my friend was very intelligently explaining to me the other day, you don't perform it. And I couldn't live like that. So as much as I like the immediacy of photography and video, and I do like creating this stuff, at the end of the day, I want to be in a room where I have planned an atmosphere. I love giving parties, I love events, everything about that. That has to be, on some way or form, my job. And making videos, it's kind of a part of that, because when I make a video, I imagine that the people are there with me. So my audience, in a way, is present. And then I love the engagement. I hate to make a video. I couldn't get along with Vimeo because I was making videos and there were no comments. I can't do that. When I do something, I need feedback. I need to know that it has healed somebody, or I consider myself a muse. I like to inspire. I like to, So enough about me. The next one in this PERMA model, PERMA values, is relationships. Social connections, love, intimacy, and social interaction. Now, this is very important for me, as it is important for everybody. We are social animals. We need that interaction, positive interaction. And very importantly, we need people that share our values. That is just fundamental. So, within this category, I have written down, I don't know if this is correct, but this is what I've done. I've written down what I value the most from my friends. Because I think that's where we're going with this. You want to have relationships where you understand each other, because often you choose people and you know how they say people love in different ways. You have to figure out how they're showing their love. Yeah, that's great, but ideally you want someone who you understand and you don't have to spend your time trying to figure out what their values, why they're behaving a certain way, because their values are so completely different to yours. It's better if you actually share your values. So things that I value, and that it would be great if my friends value them too, because that's what I understand. That's my behavior. An example of that is loyalty. I am a very loyal person. That's my main thing. I have a lot of loyalty to my friends, to my family, to my causes, to anything I do. I'm very disciplined. I have a lot of discipline. I'm very trustworthy. I'm the kind of person that people can count on. Like if I say I'll be there, I'll be there. And I also am very respectful with other people's values. So I completely understand if something is important for somebody and they tell me, sometimes they have to tell me because sometimes I don't know. But if you tell me, look, I need to do this is important for me, even if it's something completely ridiculous, like I need to count my peas and I need to go on the terrace and say Alleluia 3 times. And that might be crazy. I will understand you and I will respect it. So run with it. I don't judge you. That's one of my things, one of my values, and one of my things with relationships. I do not judge people. I don't really have an opinion in what you find important or what yourself what your morality is, what your self-compass is, as long as it's rational, is, that was one of the things that they were explaining to us with this values thing. Where do you draw the line of what positive is? Well, obviously, if it ends life, then it's not positive. If your value is you want to be aggressive or you want violence, or that's obviously wrong. If you're a murderer and you tell me, I need to kill that person, I'm going to be against that because that's irrational. Anything that's not life-giving, that would be a negative value, basically. But all of these things, so that's what I value in my friends. And a lot of the times I find myself in friendships where they don't understand these things. They have different values and they don't respect, or they don't understand that I may have different values to them, or that other things for me will be more important than to them. Or for example, if I travel with somebody and I need to exercise in the morning, or I need an hour in the morning to kind of read and study, I need that privacy, for example. Privacy is something that a lot of people don't understand. I've been with friends where they were following me into the bathroom, or if I tell them that I need 30 minutes of stretching, they don't understand it and they get offended. I can't maintain those friendships. I struggle a lot because it's crashing completely against the things that I find most important, that are absolutes in my life, that I need. They are my values. So this is why values are important, because values are the things that keep you sane and that allow you to live your life. If you're with people who are against that, or who don't understand it, or who choose not to respect it, even if they don't understand it, you can choose to respect it. If you're just one of those people who you just don't get it and you're going to be complaining the whole time, oh, you're wasting money on this. Some people, everybody has a different way of spending money, for instance. And maybe some people don't think that the way that I spend money is the correct way. But that's not for you to decide. That's my values. Just like I won't judge you if you want to spend money on something that I don't consider important. What each person considers important is not up for discussion. It just is. All right, next in relationships, because it says social interaction, I included an audience that is receptive to the entertainment that I create for them, because that's important. And I have found myself in situations where I've created something, an event or a party, and then people didn't want to really do what I was planning for them, which I understand, but ideally, for me to establish a positive relationship, people must want to engage. And then, of course, in relationships, I included a sexual romantic partner that can take me as their muse, that I can test things with, that can help me be the best version of me, that can help me accomplish what I want to accomplish, that doesn't block me from any of the things that I find important, and who can really be there and help, who can respond. Those are the three things that I'm looking for. So a great chemical connection, a person that finds me useful for their life, that would be, it's kind of a given. They have to find me necessary. And a person that I can work with, which I guess not everybody has this, but if I'm honest to myself, if I'm really honest to myself, honestly, the times that I have been most happy with my partner, with my boyfriends, are times where I could be creating with them. And that's just the truth. And I can think rationally that I shouldn't be that way, or that that's not the way to do it, but that is how it is. So ideally, that would be great if we could do stuff together. It doesn't have to be exactly what I want, but just stuff, at least discuss the things. Like when I was with this film director, we would discuss movies, and that would help us both, because you're talking about, a lot of our ideas and morality and give each other ideas for things you can create, even if you're not actually creating the same thing or creating one object together, but you're building together something. I really like that. At the same time, I love independence. As I have said before, privacy and headspace is one of my main values. But when I'm with the person, I want to have something to do with them. I don't enjoy being with persons where you each do your thing and then you meet just to watch TV and there's nothing really that you want to do in terms of creating something or building anything together. I like building things together. That's just me. All right, next one. Meaning. Having a purpose, finding a meaning in life. So this one, again, very much connected to all the others. For me, my meaning would be I am a creative director in what I do. That is ultimately what I can't live without. Because if you ask me, within what I do, if I do music or if I'm selling clothes or if I don't know, I have a very business-oriented mind. I'm very entrepreneur. So I have a lot of things going on, but the things that they all have in common is that I am the one to organize it. If I have to choose between helping somebody build a project and me being the one that is organizing the project, I will choose organizing. I think that's what I do best. So if I'm collaborating with a photographer and he asks me to be his model, which basically means you're just an object, I have zero interest in doing that. Even if we're creating something, I would want to be the one to get involved with the ideas. I mean, I can do that as a side thing. I don't mind, especially if I'm with someone really good. I'm trying to think, because I'm not usually with people who are geniuses, but I guess if I was with a genius, and I have been, then they can use me and do whatever they want, but then that's not my work, that's their work. So of course I can be an object for somebody else's idea if I consider that they're amazing and that he's going to create something, but that's him creating something. He can direct me, so I guess I'm involved in some way, but I still consider that to be his thing. For me to be doing my thing and feel accomplished, I think I would never really feel accomplished if I was just doing that, like acting for somebody or being a model in that way, where being a model is not about looks, it's about your function. Your function as a model is to fit the purpose of whatever it is that you have to represent. And I'm not particularly good at that. It's not really my thing. So I've been in collaborations where they wanted me to be a model and we didn't do the best work together. We do the best work together when they allow me to organize or at least provide ideas or clothes or something. So creative director is my thing. If I have to choose to be one thing that I can't live without, that's necessary to my life. And I was thinking, and I want to talk about this. Make a list of everything that you did when you were a child, that is, before the age of 10. That's one of the lists that I found extremely useful, because I was thinking, we're conditioned after that, but before that, we're not that conditioned. We have a sense of purpose very young. Or at least we know the kind of things that we like doing, that we like playing with. So what did I do when I was a child and I was playing? Well, you know what I did? A lot of the things that I did was I had a kind of production companies all the time. I was always creating something and organizing. I was always the leader. So in the patio, in recess, how do you call it? I don't know, in the playground, when you went out, I would organize all of my girlfriends. So I would have a group and they would be kind of working for me, and they would be creating things with sand, like in the sandbox. I'm talking, we were really young. So I would have them all, I would give them each a role, and I would organize it so that in the time that we had, which was maybe 15 minutes, we would have produced a certain amount of sculptures made of sand or something. That was always the thing. Or I would lead them out to the playground and I would say, okay, we're going to find these purple rocks. Let's see how many purple rocks. We're going to need 5 purple rocks per team. Or I would teach them a song. So by the end of the time, we would have a song prepared. And I'm very good at calculating. We have this amount of time. We're going to get this done. I'm very good at that. So all the other kids, you can imagine, they were running all over, playing hide and seek or playing with balls. And I was really disciplined and really focused on the project of that day or of that morning. And sometimes people got tired with me because, they just wanted to play. And this still happens to this day when I meet musicians and I want to get something done. I'm very much success oriented in that way. Like I need to complete something and have something that I can use or touch or show or feel. I need a conclusion. I need a finished product. Very much product oriented. That's what I was trying to say. And I drive people mad with that because a lot of people, they just want to relax, or they're just like, okay, I've done this for 2 hours. I'm just going to start drinking alcohol now. And I'm like, no, we haven't finished. We must finish. That's me. That's my values. And that is really important for me. And that's fundamental for me. So that's within my meaning of life. And I like to provide a service. I like to be a coach. I like to be a cheerleader. I like making people feel good. Maybe this is something that I have in common with all women. I think we all want to make people feel pleasure, but I particularly want that. I'm very focused. I want to make people feel amazing. I get really frustrated if I don't. Now the last perma value is accomplishment. So obviously this is really important, because if you don't have accomplishment, even if you have all of the rest, well, arguably you couldn't really have a meaning of life without the accomplishment part. But you could be having a lot of fun, be having relationships. And there's a lot of, for example, rich people who don't really have anything to accomplish, but you're not going to be happy, you're not going to flourish if you don't have accomplishments. So even if, for people who don't need money in life, of which I've met a lot, you can really kill yourself if you don't have that aim of having an accomplishment. Try to do something with your life, because something that you can say, have some pride. So accomplishment would be ambition, realistic goals, important achievements, pride in yourself. You need to be working towards something. Can be charity, anything, but something. So I value power, influential relationships. That's what some of the things that have led me to accomplishments. I like that control. Because sometimes if I know I want something, I know I can get it to be really amazing. If I don't have the power to do it, it's pointless. I can't do anything. So for me, that's really important, to have that power within what I'm doing. And as I was saying, for me, it's very important to have conclusive works that people will want to buy or engage with. And my method of earnings, because I was also thinking about that, thinking about how, as much as possible, to make this category, any category, be enjoyment for me. So one thing that I find joy in is earning money in a way that's not a salary, that's kind of I like making something, putting it out there, and for that something to be paying me without me getting involved with that again. So for example, with songs or royalties, that's how it works. You make a song, you put it out there, and then people will buy it forever, kind of. If you're successful, obviously that works better than not. But anything that you can create, or if I put out content, I love making content. I put out content one time, and I'm still gonna keep working, obviously, because I'm gonna keep putting out content. But I like that content to be out there and to be producing. Or I love property for that reason. I have managed property for a while, and then you rent it out. I like those kind of projects. Not everybody does, because these are projects that can end, that there's no security. You know, some people just like to have a job, so have a place, be controlled by someone else, be led by someone else, and thanks God for those people, because I am a leader, so I need to lead them. Some people just like to know there's this amount of hours, I'm going to earn this much, and I want that regularity of having those. That's not what I value. So my method of earnings is that the cumulative works, and earning big chunks of things for that one project and be able to organize the money or invest it somewhere else. I like investment a lot. That's what I value, that's what I like. So that was the last one, accomplishment. So we have worked through positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments. Now, hopefully that will let you have a big list of values that are very clear to you, that you can stand for and that you can thrive with. Now, what happens if you muddle up your values? Because the title of this conversation was actually hierarchy of values, not just list of values. So in a hierarchy, you need to make that list and then you need to prioritize. So I'm going to give you a maximum of 10. That's what they told me. Just choose 10 things from all of that we've written. And those will be your values, and then prioritize them. And the way you prioritize them, you put one first. The one that you absolutely need to do. For me, that would be, I think, maybe singing. Maybe just as easy as performance. I think I need to perform. I think that's the most that I need to do. So think about the thing that, if you had to wake up at 5 a.m., what's the one thing that would make you wake up at 5 a.m.? For me, it would be recording something important that's going to be listened by a lot of people, or performing. A performance would make me feel really good about not sleeping at all. So think about that thing that just feeds you to the point where you would sacrifice anything for it. And then decide, commit, take responsibility for yourself, for your own happiness. Realize that these are values that you have decided with yourself, that they don't depend on other people, and even if other people don't understand them, that doesn't change anything. You can't force yourself to have other values, or to have values that society will accept. At the end of the day, you have to know, explore what your values are, and stick to those. And they can change, but they are your values, they're not anybody else's. Don't try to make them into anybody else's, because that's just going to bring you unhappiness. So when you muddle up your values, when you don't have this order of what's most important, or you don't really know, or you make someone else your value, that ultimately is going to bring you a lot of unhappiness. You're not going to accomplish, and you're not going to flourish. That, even though you may call it wrongly altruism, if you think that you are living your life for somebody else, at the end of the day, you're not living your life for anybody, because nobody knows as well as yourself what you can do best. You need to know what you can do best and then do it. And usually what you can do best is not to try to make other people do best. Usually there's something that you can do. Now, what brings loneliness? This is a huge one because stress, loneliness, these are all the pillars of our community nowadays. Loneliness is caused when you can't find anybody to share your values with. And this is so true. And I think this is so true partly because we don't admit to ourselves what our values are. So we keep choosing people that don't agree with them, that don't understand them. And we feel so guilty often about our values. An example is, I feel so guilty about some things that I spend money on. And instead of feeling guilty, I should just accept it and say, this is what's important to me. This is my value. If I try to engage with people who don't agree with those things, who are going to be constantly putting me down, criticizing the things that I do because I find them so important, and they never accept, and they keep judging me, and they keep blocking me, I'm just going to feel like shit, and I'm going to feel lonely. I'm not going to really want to hang out with them if it's all out of duty, because I feel like I should, because I feel like they may have the right values that I should have. That's never going to work. Identify what your values are and find other people who share them and to share them with. That's how you're going to flourish. So you know what I was saying about trying to complete other people's wishes? That's codependence. That's self-denial. That's the caretaking of others. It isn't really going to help you. You're going to be depressed, you're going to be shut down, and you're going to be resentful if you make it your duty, because this is not really a value, this is a duty. If you think that you have the duty to work for others or to do what others want from you, now there is, of course, nothing is ever black or white. There are, of course, concessions. So if you have a family, especially a family, because family you don't choose, like you choose your friends. It's funny the relationship you have with family, because you don't choose them, but at the same time, you choose to be there forever and under any circumstances. You choose to respond, you choose to commit to them. Very often, especially, I come from a Spanish family, so we're very much committed to each other. I know in America it's different sometimes. They're very independent from their families and they don't really see them that much even. I guess that's cultural. For me, with my family, we take care of one another and that's just the way it is. So sometimes you have to make concessions. In these situations, my family, they don't share a lot of the values that I have and they don't understand it, and we have the biggest discussions about it. And all I try to tell them is, look, even if you don't share them, even if you don't understand them, even if you can't possibly find an explanation to why these things are important for me, can't you just respect them? Because I can't do anything about them. I really cannot. Once you've identified your values, that's a huge step forward. You can't change them. You can always strive to be better, and then they may change naturally. But you're just lying to yourself if you tell yourself that you have other values than you have. The essence of goodwill and benevolence is to identify the other person's value hierarchy and respect it. This I have in a box, underlined, highlighted 1,000 times. This I should cut out and stick on my wall because that's just so important. I'm going to read it again. The essence of goodwill and benevolence is to identify the other person's value hierarchy and respect it. And that is exactly what I would say about family. And you will have to make concessions sometimes. Somebody needs something from you. But they will also make concessions sometimes. So if you're in a relationship where it isn't a two-way relationship, instead of thinking about it as giving and receiving, which is very vague and what does that even mean, think about respecting each other. So if there's something that you need to have, like if I need to have privacy sometimes. And just as a reminder to conclude, because this has been going on forever, I hope you're having a lot of coffee. Some values are not values, which is what I said earlier, is that you can't have values that are anti-life. That's self-explanatory. We're talking about positive values. Now, there's no harm in failure. So one of our big problems, the people that I was going to this conference with, is what if you follow all of your values, you do everything you love, you respond to all these things, and then there isn't really the accomplishment that you need, or you fail? Well, failure is always a possibility, Sometimes you're going to work really hard for something, and either there's an accident, like if you're a dancer and then suddenly you break your leg and you've worked so hard for this all your life and this is all you've done, you're going to be traumatized and this is going to affect you and maybe you'll never get over it. But you still had to follow your values and you did, and you just work with it. It's not going to be, there's not an ideal situation. This is life. Stuff can happen. There's no harm. Don't give up. And that's the only thing I can say. But bottom line, nobody should call a person to sacrifice their values. And I'll give you an example, because I was having this conversation precisely the other day, because I think about this a lot, about integrity, about my artistic integrity. So I was doing this collaboration with someone. Well, we've talked about it, so this is public knowledge. But we created a piece of work that I wasn't happy with. I didn't want to use. It didn't respond to what I wanted to do. And I told him, I don't want to be involved with this because we tried it, we tested it, doesn't work for me. And he was like, well, why? Why can't we just try it? Why? And I was like, because I was trying to explain it to myself so I could explain it to him, even though we should not really have to justify these things so much. But I told him it goes against my artistic integrity. It's contradictory to the things that I value. It doesn't respond to the things that I want to transmit as an artist. It doesn't represent me. That's my value. And he kept trying to push it. Well, can't you just agree to use this one time or whatever? Nobody should call a person to sacrifice their values. And I wouldn't do that to anybody else, because I understand that completely. And I don't need a justification. If somebody tells me this goes against my values, this is just not. I understand it, I get it, I respect it. It might be a real setback for me, but I respect that. I understand people's values. So I think that's very important. I'm just reading if there's anything more that I need to tell you before I go. Yeah, just don't do things as a sense of duty, and know what your strongest values are, and know your own emotional responses, because sometimes we think that we're doing something for a greater good, but if your emotional response is negative, that's not going anywhere. Find your meaning. and respond to it. And take responsibility for yourself. Don't think, this person is driving me crazy, or this I'm dating this person, they're making me feel like, or they're making me do. Nobody can make you do. Don't sacrifice your values. Don't go with anybody who asks to sacrifice your values. And if necessary, explain it to them. I've started explaining things to people a lot, because it's the only way sometimes, and sometimes they're not even going to understand it. But these things come first. Okay, one last thing. I need to tell you about time management, because this is a hierarchy, so we have put some values before others. And the way this translates in real life is you literally do those things first. So for instance, he put an example that was really good. He's a writer. So if he has anything to do during the day, he always will put out an hour or 2 or 3 or however many he needs as a minimum in the morning to do that. Because that's the one thing that he will not compromise on. He will write. So if he has to teach a class at 10 a.m., then he will wake up 5 hours earlier, however early it needs to be. But he puts his top value before anything. So choose what your top value is and give yourself some time in the morning before anything else to do it. Because otherwise you will not accomplish it. And that's a really good advice for me, because the thing that I put in front of anything is exercising. I need to exercise for an hour, so I will put that in front. But the problem with that, the thing is, I consider that to be absolutely necessary for me to do any kind of work, so I put that. But the problem with that is that then maybe I don't do the work afterwards. So that's something for me to consider, that if I want to accomplish, I need to really think about my absolute priorities and make space for maybe a few of them. Think about those things. What things need to happen in that day that absolutely need to happen? So for me, I have to do my exercise and I have to do some work or admin or whatever. I always have a list of the things that I absolutely need to do today in my work category, things that will make me feel at the end of the day that I have been productive. So yeah, that always includes exercise and then work. Appointments may get in the way, and that's very annoying, but there's just no way to fit all of your values always before every appointment. So yeah, that's a difficult one to handle. And explore and check your values, put them somewhere visible, check that you're not contradicting them, check that they are true for you always and that you're not lying to yourself, trying to be altruistic or trying to be a better person. Of course, try to be a better person, but the values will change naturally. You don't have to force to change the values, because that's not how it works. You can write them down differently, but that's just going to confuse you. It's not going to change them. So remember the time management and the respect towards your values and other people's values. Thank you for listening to me this morning. And I will come to you later with more examples and more stuff. Anything I can offer. Have a good one, and I'll see you soon.